Hi everybody, in this video I'm taking a look at hellclock. The developer shared a key with me so I can share my honest opinion with you and gameplay. This is an action RPG roguelite game that brings some of the addicting parts from games like Diablo and Hades and other similar games in the genre. Just know that the gameplay that you see is from a pre-release version of the game, so it's subject to changes when it's released finally on Steam. Now the game is set in the 19th century, centers around the real historical event of Canudus, a settlement that became a refuge for thousands but was brutally suppressed by the new Brazilian Republic. Now you play as Pajot, a warrior whose mission to rescue the soul of his mentor, who was killed during that conflict. As Pajot descends into a warp timeline, his power grows, allowing him to confront the dark forces responsible for his mentor's death. Now, the game is a roguelite action RPG game. This means that some of the loot that you find during a run, you will get to keep for future runs, but not all of it. There are 3 acts in the game, each one consists of 21 floors with challenges, bosses, and you need to finish each act in one go. The game features 2 difficulties, softcore and hardcore. Also relaxing mode, which basically with no time limit. Now just know the developer mentioned this black and white. He mentioned hellclock is meant to be played fast. So your goal is to get as far as you can, as fast as you can. It's a very skill-based game, but more about that and the end game just a bit later on. So what I'm trying to say that the game might play differently than what you can expect, so you better watch until the end. Alright, let's jump straight and talk more about the game. Now the different items, the main one for your character are the gear that you find. These are basically define the base stats for your character, which you can further amplify using other items like relics, passive tree, and other endgame content we're going to talk about later on. The gear provides the base stats for your character, which on top of that you can use different relics to improve it. You can see the entire stats of your character and check and inspect. You also have the relics, which is the key component here in this game to create a powerful build. You're going to find more again as you go. They also drop, by the way, when you do different runs. So you're going to find them as well during the run. There are different stats, affect the different abilities, different skills. I'm going to show you in a moment. Now this is similar to Diablo. Again, you have kind of different shapes for different relics. You can need to fit it into a specific empty space onto a grid, which you further can expand once you unlock certain nodes in the passive skill tree. So there's the Great Bell, which is kind of skill tree for all the different passive to define your build. You can also, by the way, expand the grid, what I mentioned earlier in the skill tree. You can also extend leveling up your abilities and increase your resistances and so on. So yeah, there are 2 currencies in the game. The one that use the purple ones, the core crystals, they are used for, you get to keep them even if you fail the run. And there's gold, which you use in the run itself, and you don't get to keep it to the next run. This is the skill book, or basically the skill tree, where you can actually choose your abilities, and you can see them at the bottom. You have limited amount of space, you can level them up, but unlike some other games where you just want to push them up here, you need to find the right mix because you need to spend more mana in order to use them. And it's also increase the timer, the cooldown, so it's up to you to decide which level is the best for your build. The game supports controller and 2 options for keyboard and mouse. I personally prefer playing with keyboard and mouse, although there are some abilities that I find to be useful when more convenient when you're actually using a controller. Because you need to hold it in order to be able to activate it, and if you hold it and you want to control the WSD, it wasn't that comfortable. So there are 2 modes for keyboard and mouse, and you can also use a controller. And just in case something doesn't work, you can also assign keys yourself using the key binding option in the settings. Now, a few words about the timer. At the top left, you can see that I played without the timer, and basically, again, no rush. The developer mentioned, when I asked them, they mentioned that was done again because some players just prefer not playing with timer. However, based on my experience, I actually think that the timer will make the game, in terms of the combat, better in some ways. Because once you don't have timer on back, you can reach a situation where you can still kill, for example, a boss, but it will take forever for you to do it. Whether with the timer, you need to really come up with a strong build to make sure that you can actually clear the entire run in time. If you decide to play with time, just so you know, there are also drops that extend the time which drop from enemies. I personally think that if people already play hardcore, they should be rewarded for that. But just in case you feel that you need to become more powerful, you can actually just go back. There's no punishment for going back compared to just dying. But it's not like Diablo when you go back and you can go back in a portal. No, if you decide to go back, you need to start again the act from the beginning. But you do get to keep those items and currency that are permanent. Now, for example, the crystal, which is a permanent currency, you can use it to buy at the store, the blessed corner, to buy items like gear, for example, or relics. Also, the crystals are used to level up the Great Bell, so you can get points and then invest in the Great Bell, basically the passive skill tree. Aside from that, you can also use them to upgrade relics. Now, during the run, you're going to get also gold. You can use gold for different things to buy upgrades. You can even buy some items which are permanent for your character through the run. That is also an option, although it's much less common compared to temporary upgrades for your character. At the bottom, you can see the orange line. This is an XP bar, and basically once you max it out, you're going to again get the option to choose an upgrade. The difference between this and other upgrades, that XP give you basically a free upgrading, and these are temporary upgrades for the run. Now, if you notice, you can see a shiny one. You see with the hand kind of a shiny. This is the one statue that can give you either gear, again, which you get to keep, or a relic, which you also get to keep. So it's either be relic or gear. I need to buy it with gold. So sometimes it's better to keep some just in case you come across this one. You can keep, by the way, several gear items. You're going to replace the one that you have, so make sure to make the smart decision. Now, after you finish a certain section in the floor, you're going to move to the next one. The game also features something that kind of red doors, red portals, which allow you to skip floors. The reason you want to use it, sometimes you're already strong, you have a strong build, you don't really to kind of farm a lot, and you just want to continue in getting to the boss. You will have the option to do that. Now, if you play Diablo, you probably know, allied characters. Same here. If you look at the map at the top right corner, you can see a red one. This red one might have a higher chance to drop you better loot, give you more XP. So if you're already streaming through, you want to target those, because those will eventually you want to also get upgrades during the run, right? This is one of the main things. This allows you to get even stronger. So you want to focus on that once you kind of have a good build, rather than try to just eliminate the entire trash of enemies. Overall, the combat is really fun, very satisfying, with lots of really great synergies. But it was built in a way, which I'm going to explain to you in a moment, related to Endgame, so you understand why it's actually designed like that. Although the Endgame will be kind of still tested and going to get feedback from players, they're designed in a special way that's important to know how it actually works. But overall, in terms of combat and synergies, it's very, very satisfying, and I really enjoyed the combat in this game. Now, there aren't a lot of items. The reason for that is that once you finish the 3 acts, you're going to go to the end game. It's called Ascension. And you're going to lose basically everything you can see except for the completed promises, which are different objectives that rewards you for different points, which you can use in the constellation map, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Now, as of the time I'm making this video and testing the game, this feature in the game is still in beta, so they are getting some feedback from players. And I believe they do it also upon the first initial release of the game. So I do believe that some players will like it, some not, but I have my own opinion about it. Now, in my opinion, the way the game is actually structured now, it perfectly fits the end game they are designing. And that's because there aren't many items. You're also going to get a completely different passive skill tree, which is different compared to the one that you did when you did the 3 acts. And the way the session works now, you have points you can invest and choose the, let's say, how you actually buff the enemies, and you kind of put points into making things harder. And the more you invest, basically, the higher the hell level that you're going to get. With the highest maximum hell level is 10 as of the time of making this video and playing the pre-release version. And you're going to start again with the first one. And you need to complete several ones. There are limited amount of tries that you can do. If you won't be able to complete it after several tries, you need to try it from the beginning. So maybe you choose something like add different mechanics to bosses, but you find maybe it's too hard. You want to go in a different path. So basically, you have a limited amount of points you can actually invest. And once you're able to finish that run, you're going to get more and you kind of push through harder difficulties. just a few points. You also have the promises. Again, this is endgame content. You're gonna get points for doing certain achievements, and these points are actually used in order to invest in the constellation map, which is also something you're gonna unlock, I think once we finish Act 3, but basically it's designed for the end game. Because you won't be able to do it until you ascend, until you go to the end game. You won't be able to get more of these points. So in a nutshell, the different constellation, kind of something that is common between each one, and there are requirements that you need to have in order to unlock them. Either Fury, Discipline, and Faith, a combination of them as well. And you're going to get more, the more constellation you finish. Each constellation will give you different combination of those. And by the way, this is pretty massive one. There are lots of nodes here. But not all of them, of course, will be viable for you. Depends on the build you are actually using. So when I mentioned there are few items, because again, if there were many items, it would be very hard to create a build. So what's my final opinion about this game? Well, so many things work in favor of this game. First of all, the combat is very, very satisfying. There are so many ways to get some really satisfying synergies. And because there aren't a lot of items, this game was designed to be easier to theory craft really powerful builds. Now, because the endgame is designed, the entire game is designed around very precise and tight decisions, because again, otherwise it's going to be very hard for you to survive. The items are very limited, but eventually once you discover a good build, it won't be hard to get these items based on my experience, but you might not get what you want or a good drop. This means you need to adapt also as you play. And depends if you're using a timer or not, you need to manage well how you gather resources. But on the way, they lose some of that magic, the roguelite magic, where you rely on, alright, I'm getting really amazing drops. It completely changes the game. But this game, and this invents something new, this is probably the most important point of this review. The game is more like survival theory crafting type of game. This is why it's relatively compact in its nature. Once you understand that, you don't mind losing all the items and trying another ascent, because it's all about trying to remember great builds, perfect them in the run, and there's high chance that you're going to get, by the way, what you're actually planning for, because there aren't a lot of items or some really crazy drops in the run that you just rely on random drops. The game wants you to rely on really careful theory crafting, building a very good build. And the more experienced you are, the more you will remember different builds and different synergy that works well for different situations. So those who have more experience, and this is something, by the way, that you get when you do the first 3 acts before Ascension, you'll become a better player, more skilled player, the more you play it. And you're going to feel it immediately, by the way, once you finish the campaign and you go to Ascension and you want to continue using your first build, you won't be able to do it straight away and it's something you forgot, but you're still going to remember things that work well for you and you start using them. And then you need to adapt. For example, if in the Ascension tree you have a problem with certain resistance to a certain element, but you know that it happens against a certain enemy or a certain situation. This is why, by the way, you don't want the map to change or other type of surprises. You want things to be quite similar. And if the game in the Ascension tree does it something you want, like new boss mechanics, this is something that you need to relearn, of course, learn and adapt to. And again, if you fail, you need to do it again better next time. This turned the game into a more skill-based type of game that is based on the experience of the player, rather than relying on totally random drops that hopefully you're gonna get something that is more powerful, like many roguelike games do. The drops and the skill levels and the passives were all designed to amplify these decisions. Because for me it seemed the game is really built around this type of endgame experience. And once I understood that, it was kind of a revelation. I mean, okay, I understand now what this game is about. And then I realized why the option to skip even the campaign, because again, it's more like a tutorial to get you ready and skill for what's to come. So the better that you get, the less you're relying on farming, as limited as it is in the game, or just relying on getting that perfect drop for your build. And you're more skilled in creating something great with what you have. If you take everything that into account and you understand that, the game is absolutely a blast to play. Thanks for watching.